This is an answer key for the add and subtract test, and how it works is if you want to see how to do problem 1, you go to minute 1, problem 2, you go to minute 2, problem 10, you go to minute 10, just fast forward to the minute of the problem that you need to see. So in about 30 seconds here, I'll start with problem number 1. And I will also give some problems that you can do in your booklet on each of these. For each of the problems, I'll give some suggestions for if you missed that one, here's one that you could put in your booklet and then come and test it with me and check to see if you get the right answer. All right, I'm going to get a little bit of a head start here. So we have on problem 1 is negative 12 plus negative 1. That's a negative plus a negative, so it's even more negative. So that's negative 13. So when we have a positive plus a positive, it's more positive. A negative plus a negative is more negative. If you want to use color for that, you can just always do negative, negative, and then just draw a bigger negative to remind yourself that it's negative. You really can kind of ignore the signs and add them together, like that's 17 plus 13, that's 15 plus 23, and then just put the negative on at the end. I'm going to move down to question number 2 to get ready for that. Question number 2, since it's all addition, the order doesn't matter, so I'm going to add together the 1 and the 11 and get 12, and then I'm going to add the negative 3. So we have a negative 3 and a positive 12. Notice how I make that positive bigger. That means we're going to have a slightly smaller positive. That means that we are going to find the difference. So you're just going to write down 12 minus 3. When I say find the difference, just do the bigger number minus the smaller number. You get 9, and then we know that's going to be a positive 9. So the answer to problem number 2 was 9, and so you can put this problem in your booklet or try this one in your booklet and then check the answer with me to make sure that you're getting that problem, that type of problem correct. Okay, problem number 3 has more negative than positive. So I'm going to highlight the negative. And for some reason that one doesn't highlight very well, but I'll just do that right below it. And then that's a little smaller. So I know the answer is going to be red, but not quite as much. So that means that we are going to find the difference. So 7 minus 2. Notice how I just forget the positive and negatives. Just find the difference. It's 5. There's more negative, so I know that answer is negative 5. So here's a couple problems that you could put into your booklet and check the answers with me to see if you're getting that idea, if you happen to miss that one. So when we're adding a negative and a positive, when they have different signs, we are subtracting and then determining which is the answer is positive or negative. Problem number 4, we're going to rewrite this as negative 8 plus the opposite of this right here. The opposite of negative 8 is 8. Oops, let's erase that. All right, the opposite of negative 8 is 8. And then we're going to subtract 5. We're going to do these two next. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. So the answer on that was negative 5. Here's one that you could put into your notes. Let's try negative 10 minus a negative 10 minus 12. Or negative 15 minus a negative 15 minus 3. Try one of those in your booklet and then check the answer with me. Okay, we're problem number 5, we're going to rewrite this as 7. Notice how the 7 stays the same. We're going to add the opposite of this right here. The opposite of negative 6 is 6, and then subtract 7. 13 minus 7 is 6. The answer on that one was 6. And you can try this one in your booklet if you want to try out a problem that looks like this. You're going to do 17 plus the opposite of negative 16, which is 16. That's going to be 17 plus 16, and then subtract 5 from that. Another one you might try is 18 minus a negative 10, and then subtract 6. Another hint on this one is to do this part first. Do this part first, then rewrite it, and then do the subtraction at the end. All right, problem number 6 is going to be negative 1/3 plus the opposite of this right here, which is negative 2/3. Notice how I put the negative in the numerator, because that's really all we're counting. The denominator is the same. So really, we've got negative 1 plus a negative 2. We're combining two negatives, so that's even more negative. So that's negative 3/3, and that's equal to negative 1. So when we have the denominator the same right here, we can just write it once right there and just do the addition at the numerator. And so there's another example that you could try out. So you're going to do negative 2/5 plus a negative 1/5. Try that in your booklet if you missed that one. All right, for problem number 7, we have to find a common denominator. So I'm going to do negative 1/8 plus, and 3/4 times 2 times 2 is 6/8. 6/8. So just like the previous problem, we're going to write the numerator together with just one denominator. So negative 1 plus 6 is 5. So that's 5/8. You could try a negative 2 tenths plus a positive 3/8. And do that one in your booklet. Check the answer with me. Okay, problem number 8. We're going to rewrite this as negative 6 plus the opposite of this. The opposite of negative 20 is 20. So now we have a negative and a positive, so we're going to find the difference. 20 minus 6 is 14. There's more positive than negative, so the answer is 14. If you want to try one like this in your booklet, maybe do negative 10 minus a negative 15. Do that one in your booklet or make up one similar, and then check with me to see if you have the right answer. Or maybe negative 12 minus a negative 6. We have to be careful on these to change them to an equivalent addition problem and then determine, is there more positive or is there more negative? So we know if the answer is positive or negative. Okay, problem number 9 is 12. We're going to rewrite it as 12 plus a negative 24. Since we have a positive and a negative, we're going to find the difference. 24 minus 12 is 12. There's more negative, so the answer is negative, negative 12. To do an equivalent problem, just find a number like 15 and then subtract a bigger number from it, like 24, or 10 and subtract 18. And then check with me to see that that is making sense. So this one would become 15 plus a negative 24. This one would become 10 plus a negative 18. Or we could try 30 minus 40. That becomes 30 plus a negative 40. Problem number 10 is 5 plus the opposite of this. The opposite of negative 5 is 5. That is 10. So this just becomes a positive plus a positive is even more positive. So here's one you could try, 25 minus a negative 25, or 30 minus a negative 30. If we want to keep the same type, just use the same number. So any number, 6 minus a negative 6, because what you're going to notice is that all these are just doubling. That's 25 plus 25, 30 plus 30, 6 plus 6. So make up some like this, have a whole page in your booklet maybe, where you're just taking a number and subtracting the opposite of itself and realizing that it's just doubling. It's just 2 times 25 and 2 times 30 and 2 times 6. Problem number 11 is we have a positive and a negative. So here's the positive, here's the negative. So we now can ignore the positive and negative and just find the difference, 4.7 minus 3.65. We can't take 5 from 0, so we have to borrow, and that's 10 minus 5. The decimal point down, 6 minus 6 is 0, 4 minus 3 is 1. And there's more positive than negative, so this was 1.05. I got a lot of 1.15 on this because people were just doing 5 minus 0 instead of 0 minus 5. So subtraction always goes that direction. Okay, problem number 12, we have to find a common denominator. So negative 2/3 and 5/8. We're going to use 24. So 8 times 3 is 24. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 8 is 24. And 2 times 8 is 16, but it's a negative 16. This is a negative number. So we've got negative 16 plus 15, 24ths. We find the difference. It's 1. There's more negatives, so it's a negative 1/24. So a problem that you could do that's like this is maybe negative 3/4 and add to that 7/10. But if we wanted to make one just like it, we'd have no shared factors. But, oh, I've got to go on to problem number 13. Okay, 13 is the same as 27 8/100 plus the opposite of this is 18/04. This is the problem that was on the top of the second page. And so we're going to add these together, 27 8/100. 18 4/100 is 8 and 4 is 12. Carry that 1. 15, 45.12 was the answer on that one. And the error was the person subtracted instead of changing to adding the opposite. Okay, problem number 14 has the same denominator, so we're just going to write 12 plus this negative 1 and put it over this denominator, 13. So 12 plus a negative 1 is, we'll find the difference. 12 minus 1 is 11. So there's more positive, so that's 11/13. If you want to do a similar problem, you could do 2/3 plus a negative 1/3, same denominator, or maybe we could do 4/5 plus a negative 1/5. Try that one in your booklet. Or 7/8 plus a negative 3/8. And don't forget to simplify. Okay, problem number 15, I'm going to highlight this again with my positive right here and my negative right here. There's more negative, so the answer is going to be negative. So now that I've determined that, I can just do 8.6, the bigger number on top, the smaller number on the bottom, line up the decimal points. 6 minus 2 is 4. 8 minus 7 is 1. So that is a negative 1.4. If you want to do a similar problem to this, try negative 9.6 plus 6.3. Okay, problem number 16, they're both negative. So when I have a negative combined with a negative, that's plus with a negative, that's even more negative. So I'm going to take 7.5. Notice how I'm just forgetting about the negative while I do this part. I'm just adding these two absolute values together. 6 plus 5 is 11. Carry that, 15.1. So it's negative 15.1. Color really helps to remember to put the negative on the end. I got a lot of people who got the right answer but didn't put negative and they missed a point. So there's a couple problems that you could try, or you can make up one where it's a negative decimal plus another negative decimal, line up the decimal points, add them together, and just make it the answer negative. There was no problem 17, so I'm going to wait till we get to minute 18. And I've done this before, and so I'm just cleaning this up if you happen to be watching this. Whoops. Okay, problem number 18 is 2/3, and I'm just going to make that longer because the denominator is the same, plus a negative 1. So 2 plus a negative 1 is 1. There's more positive than negative, so that answer was 1/3. If you want to do a similar problem, let's do 6/7 plus a negative 1/7. Or you could try 4/5 plus a negative 1/5. And so you're going to just make these, make the denominator over 7, the denominator over 5, combine the numerators on that one. You can put that in your booklet and check it with me. Okay, problem number 19. I have to find the difference between 12.5 and 2 3/4. So I'm going to write 12 1/2 minus 2 3/4. So we have to have a common denominator. So this is going to be times 2 times 2. So that's going to be 12 2/4 minus 2 3/4. I can't take this 3 from this 2. So I'm going to borrow from this. That means I'm going to add 4/4. That's the same as 1. So I'm going to rewrite this whole thing as 11 6/4 minus 2 3/4. 6 minus 4 is 3. That's 3/4. 11 minus 2 is 9. That's where we got 9 3/4. And if you want to make up a similar problem, go ahead and do that. I've got to go on to the next problem. Problem number 20 is 2 and 4 6 plus a negative 3 6. They have the same denominator. We can just kind of ignore the 2 for a moment and just do 4 plus a negative 3 6. So 4 plus a negative 3 is 1. So combine those back together, we get 2 and 1/6. If you want to try a similar problem, do 3 and 2/3 plus a negative 1/3. Put that in your booklet and check it with me, or maybe 10 and 5/6 plus a negative 1/6. Okay, problem number 21. We're going to change this to a equivalent addition problem. 7 and 25/100 plus the opposite of this negative 4 is 4. So that just becomes two positive numbers that we're going to add together. So we'll line up the decimal points. 4 doesn't have a decimal point, so we just put it right below the 7 because it's in the same place value and just fill in zeros. 5 plus 0 is 0. We're going this direction. 2 plus 0 is 2, and 7 plus 4 is 11. So that one was 11 and 25/100. If you want to do a similar problem, there's one where you're subtracting a negative whole number from a decimal, and check that. So do this in your booklet if you want to check that one, see if you're getting that idea, and I'd be happy to correct it for you. Okay, problem number 22. Let me erase here a little work I'd done before. This is negative 6.7 plus the opposite of this, which is negative 5.4. So negative 6.7 plus a negative 5.4. Plus the opposite of negative 5.4, so we're going to make that plus. So now we're going to find the difference. So 6.7 minus 5.4 is 7 minus 4 is 3. 6 minus 5 is 1. There's more negative. There's more negative, so it's negative 1.3. And if you want to make up one similar, I'd be happy to check that one. Okay, here is problem number 23. Sorry, I had done a little bit of work and I needed to erase it. Here it is. Negative 8.2 plus the opposite of this right here. The opposite of 9.18 is negative 9.18. That means we're going to add these up. 8.2, 9.18, and we get 17.38. It's negative, so negative 17.38. If you want to do a similar problem, do negative 7.6 minus 6.32. Put that in your booklet and check the answer with me. And then finally, the last problem is just 5.3 plus minus 5.3, and that's 0, equals 0. So 5.3, we could add the opposite of this is negative 5.3. That means we find the difference. The difference between 5.3 and 5.3 is 0. We don't have more negative or positive, it is just 0. And the answer was C on that one. So if you want to put a similar one in your booklet, you could just do any number minus any number, make it a decimal. 6.2 minus 6.2.